We're not going to talk about my hair and beard situation. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. We're just going to ignore it, and everything's going to be okay. Welcome back to another video. I'm Trevor, and I am eternally uncool. About 2 years ago, I made a video about Machine Gun Kelly and the pop-punk revival that was underway at the time. We saw rappers dropping pop-punk albums. We saw TikTokers dropping pop-punk albums. I think my grandmother even dropped a pop-punk album at the time. Most of them received mixed to negative responses. Except my grandmother. Her shit was straight fire. Now pop-punk is back and it's become a bit of a trend. Which is kind of sad for someone like me who grew up loving pop-punk. It was the first kind of music that really felt like mine. To see it being so blatantly exploited for clout just feels gross. Whenever I tell someone I like pop-punk music, they're like, oh, Machine Gun Kelly, Mod Sun. But pop-punk is so much more than that. Pop-punk is a serious and artistic genre. No, really. Not every band sounds like Blink-182. At least, they didn't always. You have regional sounds. In Long Island, you had Brand New and Taking Back Sunday. New Jersey, you had Saves the Day and Midtown. In the Bay Area, you had Green Day and Rancid and Jawbreaker. And the themes talked about in pop-punk songs range from goofy and juvenile to deadly serious. Blink can sing a song about giving blowjobs, and then on the next track, sing about divorce. Max Bemis can craft a song about phone sex, and also a song about wanting to know your plans and how involved in them he is. Pop-punk isn't dead. It's just in a weird place right now. Like most of us. What I want to do with this video is showcase 3 pop-punk albums that I think are worth checking out. I broke one of my rings today, so if I seem a little off, it's because I'm bummed. These albums are personal favorites of mine, so if you disagree with their ranking or you think something else should be on this list, I don't care. This is my video. But I created some rules for this video. The albums had to have been released within the last 5 to 10 years. I can make a whole video on great pop-punk albums from the 2000s, arguably the greatest time for pop-punk music in the mainstream. Today, I'd rather focus on albums from the 2010s, which is when I really got into pop-punk. The second rule? Subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Here are 3 pop-punk albums worth checking out. By the time I graduated high school, I was pretty bored with pop-punk, if I'm being honest. I had moved on to the more hipster-fied bands like Kings of Leon and the sludgy doom metal of Electric Wizard. Yeah, I was in a weird place after high school. I still listen to bands like Modern Baseball and The Front Bottoms and Free Throw, but other than that, I had moved on. Turns out it really was a phase. Or was it? I don't remember how I discovered As It Is. I know it was through YouTube, but it wasn't through Patty Walters' channel at the time. Back then, I didn't watch a lot of music channels, except for maybe like Anthony Fantano. I did, however, follow the Run for Cover YouTube channel. I loved Run for Cover at the time, and I still love them today. They had artists like the aforementioned Modern Baseball, Super Heaven, Tiger's Jaw, Elvis Depressedly. They were the coolest label to 19 and 20-year-old Trev. As It Is wasn't on Run for Cover Records. But I think the YouTube algorithm saw that I was listening to a lot of emo and pop punk, and they were just like, here, take this, you sad little freak. Diatones was the first As It Is song and video I heard. It was a good introduction to the band. I was hooked immediately. They didn't sound like any other pop-punk band at the time. You had bands like Real Friends and The Story So Far who were really heavy and serious. Sad boy pop-punk, as Finn McKenty dubbed it. But As It Is, despite talking about serious subject matter sounded lighter. They were a band you could listen to and not feel completely wiped out at the end of the album. I'm also a sucker for dual vocalists. It's one of the things I loved about bands like Taking Back Sunday. I bought their debut album, Never Happy Ever After. I would listen to this album non-stop. It was one of the 2 albums I had on repeat in 2015 and 2016. At the time, I had a restaurant job that I hated, and I just found myself returning to that angst that pop punk just kind of feeds on. As It Is was a breath of fresh air in a genre that I personally felt had gotten kind of stale. Never Happy had some banger singles. Dial Tones, Cheap Shots and Setbacks, Can't Save Myself. You guys know I'm a sucker for deep cuts, and this album delivers on those too. Sorry, Concrete, Drowning Deep in Doubt, Turn Back to Me, come on. This album was a 10 out of 10 for me at the time, and it still is. Obviously, that's why I'm recommending it. I highly recommend this album if you like bands like Taking Back Sunday and Saves the Day. If you're looking for a band that wears their heart on their sleeve but aren't complete downers, As It Is the band for you. And Never Happy Ever After is a great place to start. I'm the boy who chose not to grow up, and now I'm unprepared for anything. Now I'm scared and I'm cold and alone because the world grew up without me. What do you get when you mix the looks of Adam Lazzara, the personality of Gabe Saporta, and the vocal talents of Kenny Vasoli? You get Austin Knight, the lead singer of God's favorite boy band, Waterparks. Waterparks is an interesting band. They fit neatly between pop and pop punk. They ride a fine line, blending both genres almost seamlessly. I don't know how they're not as big as a band like the 1975 or Fall Out Boy. They have great hooks, immense appeal, and a sassy frontman. What more do you want? While an album like Fandom shows their pop appeal, my personal favorite is their 2018 sophomore album, Fuck, Entertainment. You were looking at the thing the whole time. Their 2016 debut, Double Dare, was a stellar pop-punk album, cementing Waterparks as a band to look out for. This album spawned singles like Stupid for You and Hawaii, parentheses, Stay Awake. And darling, won't you stay awake for me. And it was produced by pop-punk royalty Benji Madden of Good Charlotte. And since you don't fuck with the formula, Madden would also produce Entertainment. I think this adds to the album's appeal. Good Charlotte was a very pop-forward pop-punk band. They knew how to create catchy hooks that would stick in your head. With someone like that at the helm, this album was bound to be decent, at least. Just as a reference, notable pop-punk albums released at the time are as follows. Pilot by Hot Mulligan. The Great Depression by As It Is. This is where they kind of got more gothy and serious, and Patty Walters dyed his hair black. And Sister Cities by Wonder Years. With competition like that, Entertainment needed to stick out. It needed to distinguish itself. And stick out it did. Mixing pop-punk, electro-pop, synth, and elements of post-hardcore as well. Entertainment is definitely a unique pop-punk album, and Waterparks were definitely doing their own thing, not conforming to the restrictions of pop-punk and emo. Entertainment spawned hits like Blonde, Not Warriors, and Lucky People, ranging from catchy and punchy to serious and acoustic. Along with Peach, parentheses, Lobotomy, and 1111, this album absolutely kills it. I remember listening to this album on repeat after its release. In fact, this album made me a pretty big fan of Waterparks. I would listen to this album, watch some music videos, watch their interviews. I thought it was really cool that 3 dudes around my age were making like really good music and just like making waves in the scene. Meanwhile, I was working at the deli and drinking till I couldn't stand. You should check out this album if you like your pop punk to be a little bit more poppy and incorporate elements of electronic music. I don't think you'd like this album if you're a purist, aka a gatekeeper. If you like your pop punk straightforward and serious, this album is not for you. But if you like things that are fun and clever and different and creative, then I recommend checking this album out. I mentioned that As It Is got me back into pop punk, but I wasn't being 100% honest with that statement. Yes, they got me back into the genre, but they weren't the only band that was reeling me in. The other band that restored my faith in pop punk was Neck Deep and their 2014 album, Life's Not Out to Get You. I think I discovered this album around 2015, 2016. I know I was in my second semester of college. I didn't have Spotify at the time, so I exclusively streamed my music through Pandora. I don't remember what station I had on, but I remember a song coming on and just completely blowing my mind. That song was The Beach is for Lovers, parentheses, not lonely losers, end parentheses. Immediately, I wanted more. So I made a Neck Deep station on Pandora and I was hooked. I would end up buying the album and becoming a pretty big fan of Neck Deep at the time. I remember going to a production of Bring It On the Musical at my college that a friend of mine was in, and wearing this red Neck Deep shirt that had the Life's Not Out to Get You album artwork on it. And I thought I was so cool just wearing a pop punk band shirt to a musical. I was like, I'm a rebel. I'm so, like, no one can touch me. And I remember, like, during intermission or at the end of the show or something, this group of, like, little scene girls, they're like, we love your shirt. That's a cool shirt. Why do I remember stupid things like that? Like, why can't I remember something useful like calculus? Like a lot of pop punk bands, the members of Neck Deep have hardcore backgrounds, and it really shows on their early albums. When I discovered this album, I wasn't as well versed in hardcore as I am now. And I wouldn't say I'm even that well versed in hardcore now. I just listen to Turnstile. Sure, I was into Touche Amore and La Dispute and Defeater, and my older brothers had introduced me to bands like Black Flag, but I didn't have the appreciation that I have for it now. I think albums like this and other kind of heavier albums from around this time really helped me to get into hardcore a little more and find that appreciation. Want to thank you for letting me be myself. I want to thank you for letting me see myself. I want to thank you for letting me be myself. The songs on this album have the punchiness and urgency of hardcore, but the melodiousness and catchy hooks of pop punk. It's a brilliant combination that has proved fruitful for bands like Fall Out Boy and A Day to Remember. The first few songs are just exhilarating and perfect. Fast and loud and fun. But like every pop punk band worth their rude jeans, they had to have a serious song on the album. And that song is December. December is probably Neck Deep's biggest song. Every year on December 1st, you can expect every emo and pop punk person on TikTok to make this sound go absolutely viral. They even recorded the song twice. It's 4. Twice. Once was an impossibly sad rendition with Chris Carrabba of Dashboard Confessional. And the other was a more upbeat, punchier version with Mark Hoppus. Because Mark Hoppus is featured on a track in almost every single pop punk album that has come out within the last 50 years, including my grandmother's album. At the time, I didn't really like it when pop punk bands took it down and got a little bit more serious and released sad songs. But this one seemed to infiltrate my brain and force me to sing along at the top of my lungs every time it would come on. It's that good. Life's Not Out to Get You is a good mix of hardcore influences and pop punk tradition. If you like the heavier sound, this album will definitely be for you. You'll enjoy the urgency and feel the need to mosh for the majority of the runtime. I also recommend checking out Hate 5-6's live recording of Neck Deep. It's just real cool. When I initially got the idea for this video, my first pick for a pop punk album that everyone should listen to was the As It Is album. And when I tried to think of the other two albums I would be putting on this list, I kept going back to ones from my college years. I don't know if I'm trying to relive those years or if I'm just feeling real nostalgic with the springtime coming, but these albums still hold up. For me, at least. Might be a different story for you. I might make another video like this somewhere in the future. I know I say that for all my videos, but there's a lot of great pop punk albums that I think everyone should listen to. And not all of them come from my college years. I promise. That's gonna do it for this video. What did you think? Do you like these albums as much as I do? Are you going to check them out? Leave a comment and let me know. If you liked this video and want to see more videos similar to it, you should subscribe to my channel. I talk about music and music culture, and not all of it is pop punk and emo. My tastes range from everything from punk to hip hop to jazz.
You like jazz?
You like jazz? You should also share this video with everyone in your life. Just bombard them with it. Your mom, your dad, brothers, sisters. Send it to your boss, your Pilates instructor, that barista you're trying to flirt with but you don't know how because you're socially awkward. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by summertime, and liking and sharing this video as much as you can really helps me in that effort. So like, subscribe, and share. I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.
3:28 a.m.
What the hell? So, we meet at last. How did you get keys? Am I really gonna try this again? Yes.